All right guys, Colton Woods here, and I'm with Devereaux, and we're gonna be talking about the importance of a slow request or riding off of a longer rein. I'm gonna walk in, we've been sitting here for a minute and there's flies everywhere. Well, I'm gonna be talking to you guys about the importance of having a slower request, and that could be anything. That could potentially be your seat, that could be off your leg aid, that could be off of utilizing another aid like a spur or a crop, but particularly right now, I wanna talk with you guys about utilizing that off of your rein aid, and I'm going to show you why here in a second. I'm going to just kind of trot him for a second and liven his feet up. These flies are kind of following us around, and he's been standing, so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of let him stretch his feet here while I talk to you guys. We're being followed. There's a bunch of flies here, so we're going to kind of just let him cruise around. But what I'm getting at with this slower request for this is that, you know, here I've got him in slobber straps, but a lot of y'all might ride in a D-ring snaffle or an O-ring snaffle, or some of our Western riders might actually be in a curb bit with a leverage, like a shank on it. And so we often see, you know, and we strive to have our horses super soft, and good job, buddy. And so we strive to have our horses super soft, but if we're really quick with our hands, the horse doesn't, we're minimizing the amount of time that the horse has to respond. So we eventually want our horse to be fairly prompt. But I'm going to go far left field here, and I'm going to say you've probably seen reining horses, and you've seen those horses that they ride them on a really loose rein, and it oftentimes seems like they're doing this, and they'll pick up kind of quick. And you can even see here, like, see how this horse is starting to bridle up off that? This horse has only ever been ridden in a snaffle bit, right? But you can see even here, as I kind of like pick up, I'm not actually making contact with the bit, but I've got slobber straps on there. You can see how that gets him to start getting softer in the pole, right? And so I'm not actually pulling on him, I'm just kind of doing this. And so a lot of times people see a lot of the Western horses or reining horses, in particular, I'm just using that discipline, but you could look at all across the board where people kind of pick up the slack on that. And I'm being really careless here. This is kind of good for this horse to get used to it. But you can see that you could pick up here and not actually be like just jerking on his face, okay? And the point is that a lot of times those shank bits they're signal devices. They're not meant for a direct pull. This is set up the same way. My snaffle bit is set up the same way. So initially when he got really good and he was like, when I just did this and he started actually bridling up, I should have just quit like there and said, hey, good, you're responding to a signal. You're not responding to a direct pull, which is really important for this horse because this horse has been pulled on before and he knows how to kind of lean into the bars of his mouth, versus I've got slobber straps on here. If you had just regular English reins on a D-ring snaffle or an O-ring snaffle, you'd have the same effect, because you guys can probably, and I'll get the camera to zoom in down on the snaffle bit here and give her a second, but if you zoom in down there on the snaffle part, if you watch, are you good there? Okay, so once Devereaux stops playing with the flies, as I pick up on this rein, we'll give him a second. Hey, they're not so bad, I promise. We'll get moving in a second. So as I pick up, you guys can see that as I pick up on the rein, you can see how that slobber strap slides up the O-ring, or this is a D-ring snaffle, but you can see how it slides up, right? So if I did this on both reins, the horse should start to respond as such. Now that had a little bit of direct pressure to it because the slobber straps got to the top near the head stall, but there he starts to respond and I release. Okay, so Meredith, you can zoom back out, but I'm gonna get him moving so the flies don't eat us. But there you guys can see we're getting them to respond off of a signal, not just off of a direct pressure. And how do we end up getting that with our horses is to be slower in how we respond. So you can do this a couple ways, right? For our Western horses, a lot of times we ride on a bit of a more loose rein, right? And that gives, what happens having on a loose rein is that if I pick up here, it takes a longer amount of time before I make direct contact. When we ride English horses, I always tell people it's the same principle. I just might have my hands a little bit more forward, and instead of just going here, I might just slowly start to close my fingers and give the horse the chance to respond, okay? So it's really important when we look at how we pick up on our horses and how we ask them to do it, and that we give them enough time to respond, and if they don't, we back it up, right? You know, if I said it, I'm not going to ask him to stop, but say I did, right? And say he didn't stop. I could slowly pick up on the reins, and then when he the pressure, he stopped. But if he didn't, I might have to really close my hand and say, hey, you need to come back and rein back. You missed that, okay? And then here, I'm just going to ride him back forward. That's something we've been working on. And then I'll let him out. But it's really important that if you're riding a Western horse, that you might ride him on a bit more of a loose rein. So now I'm riding a reining horse, right, guys? This is what I love about dressage and reining, is that here, if I ask him to pick his head up a little bit, look, I have a dressage horse. And then if I drop his head down, now I have a reining horse. All right, this is the difference in how the reining horses, what you see is you see the dressage horse after it's done its test, okay? But however, when you ride a dressage horse in a test, that's what the reiners look like in the warm-up a lot of times, is that they've got them picked up and they're saying, hey, you have to stay engaged in behind. You have to get soft in the bridle. You have to, I would like do a little bit of a shoulder yield. You have to be able to move your body parts all the way around, all right? And then when the reiner's going to the show pen, they drop them down and they say, all right, let's go. When the dressage horses go into the pen, they look like I just did have them picked up. And when they walk out of their test, if you go to the warm-up or the cool-down section with the dressage horses, this is what they look like a lot of times, is that they have them on a loose rein. The horses are stretching out. They're relaxing down. And this is absolutely, that's why I love these two disciplines, right? But the way that for my Western people, you know, be slower on the request. You have more rein. So that's why you can get a lot of softness, is because it takes time. Whoa. It takes time to get those responses for the rein to make a direct contact. For the English folks, I'd say, hey, you're riding on a shorter rein, be slower in how you request that and give the horse the chance. You'll find that they'll start to respond so much softer and so much sooner because you've given them the chance to recognize, man, these flies are, they'll given them the chance to recognize what is happening, the draw of the rein. So there, I just picked up on this my right rein. He started to slow down. I add energy in and say, hey, you can get soft, but my body has you positioned for a bit of a shoulder yield around there. All right, guys? So that's how I like to do, why I'd like to focus on a slower yield or a slower request in my rein aids, or perhaps riding them on a longer rein, and that giving them the time that they need to get prepared for the signal, not necessarily the direct pull. So hope you guys found this insightful and helpful. We kind of threw a few extra things in there because opportunity presented itself. But if you guys found this insightful and helpful, be sure to let us know down in the comments. Share with your friends, share with your family. Our main goal, guys, is to educate horses and people with a lifetime in mind. That's what we love doing. That's what we do every single day through our boutique training program and traveling all across the world doing clinics. So very excited to be able to work with you guys and the opportunity to watch these videos and pass them along to your friends and family. And be sure to like, follow us, and subscribe to Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all those good things. And we'll be sure to catch you guys on the next video. Y'all take care.